What if the absolute best destination you could ever reach in life was, just a total absolute void? Welcome to today's deep dive.
Glad to be here for this one.
Yeah, okay, let's unpack this because our mission today is to explore a really profound and honestly kind of radical philosophical text.
It really is.
Right. It's by an author named Feng, and it was actually translated and edited by Kinyu back in August of 2023. And it carries this super provocative title. It's called Emptiness is Ultimate Nirvana.
Which is a heavy title.
Very heavy.
Yeah.
And the goal for you, the listener, is to explore how this author takes that ancient concept of emptiness and completely redefines it. Like, not as some bleak, terrifying nothingness, but as a tangible ultimate destination, the place he calls the Elysium world.
Right.
Because the text opens with this massive claim. It says, entering the state of emptiness is literally synonymous with achieving ultimate nirvana and reaching paradise.
Yeah.
Like they are the exact same thing.
And what's fascinating here is how the author challenges centuries of traditional spiritual thought from, the very first paragraph.
Oh, absolutely.
But before we dive into the mechanics of how that actually works, it is really crucial to state that we are impartially exploring the specific viewpoints and interpretations provided in Feng's text today.
Yeah, good point to make.
Right. We are just mapping out the logic and the framework presented in the source material. We're serving as guides to the author's ideas rather than, endorsing a specific theology ourselves. The goal is to lay out the architecture of this thought system so you can examine the logic for yourself.
Exactly. And honestly, whether you're a dedicated spiritual practitioner or just someone trying to survive a completely overwhelming week at work, this text forces you to rethink human consciousness.
It really does.
It offers this very unique framework for escaping mental overload. But to understand this ultimate destination, the Elysium world, the author says, we first have to understand a complete reinterpretation of the map itself.
The map being the Heart Sutra, right?
Yeah, specifically one of the most famous texts in Eastern philosophy. And Feng argues that the Heart Sutra is actually a historical misreading.
Right. According to the text, its true name should actually be the Nature Sutra.
Which changes everything.
It does. And nature, in this context, refers to the intrinsic essence or the core characteristics of things, which is vastly different from the concept of a heart or a mind.
Yeah, when I read that, I immediately thought of an analogy. It's like finding out a famous, beloved recipe book that, millions of people have been using to bake cakes for centuries was actually a chemistry manual all along.
Oh, I like that.
Right? Like reading it with that completely new lens changes the meaning of every single instruction.
Yeah.
You aren't baking a cake anymore. You're trying to synthesize a specific compound.
And if you're reading a chemistry manual as if it were a cookbook, your results are going to be disastrous.
Yeah, exactly.
So the text unpacks this critical difference between the mind and nature. According to Feng, the mind, at least as we typically experience it, doesn't actually exist in any permanent way.
Which is wild to think about.
Yeah, the text quotes this famous line. It says, "The past mind cannot be grasped, the present mind cannot be grasped, the future mind cannot be grasped."
Okay. I have to admit, I struggle with that leap a little bit.
Sure.
Because I use my mind for everything. Like, I'm using it right now to have this conversation with you.
Yeah.
What does the author mean that it can't be grasped or that it just doesn't exist?
Well, think about the transient nature of your thoughts. You spend your morning anxious about a future meeting that hasn't happened yet, that is the future mind.
Right.
Then you spend the evening regretting a conversation from yesterday, that's the past mind. Even your present perception is just constantly shifting based on, hunger, fatigue, or just your mood.
So it's never stable.
Exactly. Because the mind is a constantly moving target, it has no solid reality. It's really just a series of ephemeral reactions. Therefore, Feng concludes, the sutra cannot possibly be about cultivating the mind.
Oh, okay.
It has to be about nature, the underlying, unchanging bedrock of existence.
So when the famous line says, form is emptiness, emptiness is form, the author insists it's describing the state of underlying nature, not merely a state of lacking a mind.
Yes. And Feng issues a very severe warning regarding this exact distinction.
Oh yeah, this part was intense.
Right. The text states that if you wish to seek the Buddha, you have to see this nature. If you do not see this nature, then all traditional physical practices are, entirely useless for becoming a Buddha.
And the text is incredibly specific about those practices, too.
It really doesn't hold back.
No, it lists things like reciting the Buddha's name, chanting sutras, observing fasts, keeping precepts, practicing charity, sincerely worshiping with incense, and even releasing animals. Suifeng argues you could do all of those physical rituals for your entire life, and without seeing your true nature, it just amounts to nothing.
It totally strips away the comfort of physical action.
Yeah, it does.
Because a lot of people rely on the tangible routine of rituals to feel like they're making spiritual progress, you know? Zhu Feng removes that safety net completely, forcing the focus entirely onto the intangible essence.
But that brings us to a major conceptual hurdle, I think.
How so?
Well, if physical rituals in the mind don't get you there, what does this state of nature or emptiness actually look like?
Ah, right.
Because here's where it gets really interesting. Zhu Feng points to the sutra's vivid description of this emptiness, and it is intense.
It's a very striking list.
I'm just going to read the list from the text. It says that all dharma is characterized by emptiness. There is no consciousness of sensory experience. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, or mind.
Right.
No forms, sounds, smells, tastes, or touches. No aging and death. No suffering, no origination, no cessation, no path, no wisdom, and no attainment.
It's just a complete negation of everything we associate with human existence.
Exactly. And I hear you saying it's supposed to be freedom, but no eyes, no ears, no mind still sounds kind of like death to me.
I can see why you'd say that.
It sounds like being trapped in a cosmic sensory deprivation tank, just floating in the dark forever. Walk me through how losing my senses equals freedom. Like, why is this a desirable goal for anyone?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the author actually steps in immediately to resolve this exact tension.
Oh, so he knows people will react that way.
Absolutely. Shofeng anticipates that sense of dread, literally writing, "Wait a moment," in the text.
That's reassuring.
Yeah, he says this isn't a dead void.
Yeah.
The author argues that this is the state of great freedom and perfection, but it's the state after all suffering has been eliminated. It's a state of complete harmony with the Tao.
Oh, okay.
So the description isn't about death at all. It's about depicting the precise nature of the Tao.
Okay, let's define our terms here for the listener, because words like Tao and Dharma get thrown around a lot.
They do, yeah.
Traditionally, the Tao represents the underlying natural order of the universe, like the flow of all things, right?
Well, that is the conventional understanding, yes. And Dharma, at least in this context, refers to the fundamental phenomena or laws of reality.
Okay, got it.
And Feng builds this massive logical deduction to unify all these concepts. We can look at it as a grand equation.
An equation.
Yeah. In this framework, they are all absolutely equal. It goes like this. Emptiness equals formlessness,
Okay,
which equals selflessness, which equals ultimate nirvana,
tracking so far.
which equals the Elysium world, which equals the Tao, which equals Buddha, which equals super celestial being.
Whoa, okay, wait. Let me stop you there.
Sure.
Equating emptiness to ultimate nirvana makes a certain kind of philosophical sense. But equating the Tao, which, like we said, is a cosmic flow, to a super celestial being...
But no, it sounds contradictory.
Yeah, because a being sounds like a specific entity. How can a being be the exact same thing as a void?
Well, it's a radical equalization. Shofeng is systematically stripping away all the cultural baggage and the personification we usually attach to these words.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, a super celestial being isn't like a giant person sitting on a cloud in this framework. It is a consciousness operating at the absolute highest frequency of pure existence.
That makes a lot more sense.
And the Tao isn't a mystical river. It is the fundamental structure of reality. The author explicitly states that achieving any one of these means you've achieved them all. If you achieve true selflessness, you automatically enter the Elysium world. They are literally just different linguistic labels for the exact same destination.
Man, that reframes the entire text. It's almost like a completely unified theory of spirituality.
It really is.
But I am still hung up on the phrasing a little bit. If the Elysium world is this state of great freedom and perfection, why does the sutra describe it in such negative terms? Like, why list all the things that are missing instead of what's there?
That's a great point. What you're noticing is a classic example of apophatic theology.
Apophatic theology.
Yeah, it's the practice of describing the divine or the ultimate reality by stating what it is not. Because human language is built entirely on sensory limitations, we only have words for things we can see, touch, or, conceptualize with our transient minds. Because the ultimate destination exists completely outside those sensory limits, any positive word you try to use to describe it will inherently limit it.
Oh, wow. So the author draws a sharp distinction between the map and the scenery.
Exactly.
The Nature Sutra, what we used to call the Heart Sutra, does not actually describe the scenery of the Elysium world at all.
Not even a little bit. The text argues that the description of no eyes, no ears, no mind is merely a thinking cognitive pathway.
It's just directions.
Right. It gives the method to get there, it informs us of the path, and then urges the practitioner to move, literally commanding us to go, go, go towards the other shore.
So the text isn't giving us a travel brochure for the destination, it's giving us the instruction manual for the vehicle.
Or, to bring back your earlier analogy, it's the chemistry formula you have to follow to get the reaction. And to understand the actual scenery of the Elysium world, like what happens when the reaction occurs, Swifeng introduces a concept called the universal key to unlock the mysteries of the universe.
A universal key. Okay, what are the components of this key?
Structure, consciousness, and energy.
Structure, consciousness, and energy.
Yes. The text explains that as long as a non-material structure exists, consciousness can mobilize all the energy of the universe.
Okay, I need to understand the underlying mechanism here, because it sounds like quantum physics meeting spirituality.
It really does blur that line.
Why does consciousness need a non-material structure to mobilize energy? Like, what is stopping it right now?
According to this framework, your physical body is what's stopping it.
My body.
Yeah, your physical senses act as severe resistors to universal energy. Think of human consciousness as this vastly powerful supercomputer, but currently it's forced to connect to the internet using a 1990s dial-up modem.
Oh, that sounds agonizing.
Right. That dial-up modem is your physical brain, your eyes, your nervous system. They can only process a tiny, tiny fraction of reality at a time.
So shedding the physical structure, the no eye, no ear, no body part of the equation is what creates the non-material structure.
Exactly. You are removing the dial-up modem entirely. Because the emptiness is completely free of physical limitations, your consciousness is no longer bottlenecked.
It's free to just be.
Right. It can operate at its absolute maximum potential. And as long as that consciousness exists within that frictionless non-material structure, the universe is just full of vitality and vigor.
You know, that perfectly explains the seemingly contradictory phrase, emptiness is form.
How so?
Well, the emptiness isn't a dead void. It's the perfect, frictionless environment for consciousness to mobilize infinite energy. Without the resistors of the physical body in the way, the chemistry experiment can finally occur in a pure state.
That's a perfect way to put it. The emptiness allows for ultimate vitality. It's the canvas upon which infinite energy can be mobilized.
This raises an important question, though. I mean, the physics meets spirituality math works perfectly on paper. I understand the map. But I can't live inside an equation.
No, you can't.
So how do you, the listener, actually experience this vitality?
Well, this raises an important question, and Swifeng tackles it directly. He notes that without first-hand experience, all theoretical knowledge is just pale and inconclusive.
Right.
You can memorize the map all you want, but that doesn't mean you've felt the sun on your face in the new territory.
So what does this all mean? How do we get there? The author brings in a really fantastic grounding analogy here about a pineapple.
Oh, the pineapple analogy is a brilliant way to expose the limits of intellectual understanding.
Yeah, the text asks, what does a pineapple taste like? You know, you can have someone describe the taste to you perfectly.
They could give you the whole chemical breakdown.
Exactly. They can analyze the acidic pH levels, the specific sugar compounds, the fibrous texture. You can understand the pineapple perfectly on an intellectual level. But until you actually bite into it yourself, that flavor remains as distant as a reflection in a mirror or the moon in the water.
It's just theory.
Right. Only when you taste the pineapple will you truly understand its flavor.
So if we move from theory to experience, what is the actual taste of the Elysium world? Like, what is the experiential flavor of ultimate nirvana, according to Swifeng?
Well, the text defines it like this. It says, forgetting oneself to be completely relaxed and joyful.
Forgetting oneself to be completely relaxed and joyful. That is the true scenery right there.
That sounds wonderful.
The entire purpose of navigating toward emptiness is to reach that state of total relaxation and joy, which can only happen when the self is forgotten.
Let's spend some time on this concept of forgetting oneself, because I would argue this is infinitely harder today than it was centuries ago when these sutras were first conceived.
Oh, absolutely.
We live in an era defined by intense, relentless hyper-awareness of the self.
It is the defining characteristic of modern life. We are encouraged and honestly, financially incentivized to constantly curate and monitor our identities.
Exactly. We have social media profiles, personal brands, LinkedIn resumes. We are constantly checking how many likes our thoughts got, tracking our heart rates on our watches, analyzing our own trauma.
It's exhausting.
We're endlessly staring into the mirror of our own egos. So to ask a modern human to forget oneself feels almost impossible. My mind is constantly reminding me of myself.
And the author doesn't pretend this is a simple task. You don't just, decide to forget yourself and suddenly enter the Elysium world on a Tuesday.
If only it were that easy.
Because it is so difficult, Zhofeng actually points readers to a specific practical methodology. The text mentions following the 8 methods of entry-level practice.
Okay.
And those are detailed in another of the author's works titled The Free Holy Land, The Extinction and Emptiness of Form of Dharma.
So the author completely acknowledges that you need rigorous step-by-step training to actually condition the consciousness to let go of the self.
Yes.
This text provides the why and the logical framework, the grand equation, but the actual biting of a pineapple requires dedicated practice that's outlined elsewhere.
Right. The framework prepares your mind to accept that letting go is safe and necessary, but the practice is what actually achieves the detachment.
Got it. Okay, as we move toward the end of our deep dive, we have to address a final seeming contradiction raised in the text.
Ah, yes, the linguistic knot.
Yeah, it's a knot that might be snagging in the listener's mind right now.
Because Weaving anticipates this paradox. On one hand, the text states unequivocally, emptiness is the Elysium world.
But then, just a few paragraphs later, the text says emptiness does not describe the true scenery of the Elysium world.
Right. On the surface, that sounds like a total failure of logic. How can it be the destination but simultaneously fail to describe the destination?
But the author provides a wonderfully elegant solution to this paradox. The text says, you can understand it like this. An apple is a fruit, but fruit is not necessarily an apple.
Emptiness is the broad category.
Yes.
It contains the Elysium world. It's the necessary underlying condition. But the mere word emptiness, especially with all our earthly negative connotations of blankness and voids, it cannot possibly capture the vibrant, energetic, joyful reality of the destination itself.
Just like the broad category word fruit completely fails to capture the crisp, sweet, acidic crunch of biting into a specific apple.
Exactly.
Or a pineapple, for that matter. The map is not the territory. The word is not the experience.
It serves as a really beautiful final reminder that language is merely a tool pointing toward a reality that exists beyond words.
This entire deep dive brings us to a really profound place. Because whether you're actively seeking ultimate nirvana or you're just trying to figure out how to stop your brain from spinning out of control with anxiety on a Tuesday afternoon, this text offers a radical challenge.
It really does.
It challenges us to realize that true freedom and true vitality might actually require us to loosen our incredibly tight grip on our own minds and our own identities.
It suggests that the mental noise and the self-obsession we cling to so desperately are actually the very resistors blocking us from tapping into deeper energy and joy.
Yeah.
By clinging to the transient mind, we completely miss our true nature.
It leaves you with this final thought to really mull over. If the ultimate goal, the actual lived experience of paradise, is defined as forgetting oneself to be completely relaxed and joyful, consider how much of our daily suffering is entirely self-inflicted.
That's a powerful thought.
How much of our stress comes simply from being unable to put down our own personal narratives? Could the very first step to finally tasting the pineapple just be putting down the mirror? Stepping away from that exhausting self-awareness and finally allowing ourselves to step into the blank, unmapped spaces.
Because as we've seen, it's not a void.
Right, because as we've explored today, that emptiness isn't a terrifying void where life ends. It might just be the exact place where true vitality begins.